Matthew 10:34-37. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. For I've come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And man's foes shall they be of his own household. He that loveth father and mother more than me is not worthy of me. And he that loveth son and daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Okay, so you need to look at that in context. Okay? You need to look at that in context. All right. This is about people that are being set aside for Jesus Christ. Because that's what happened to Jesus. You understand? What Jesus was explaining to the disciples is what you're going to need to expect when you go 100% for me. In other words, we've been seeing it happen. So Jesus was explaining to his disciples and what would happen in this age of time, this church age. Okay. We're coming into the kingdom age now where it's going to be completely different. Everybody's going to be awakening. Jesus' dream church is going to happen, which is the Church of Philadelphia, peace and brotherly love. So the new age that's coming, the kingdom age, will be the time of peace and brotherly love. All right. The Church of Philadelphia, Jesus' end time dream church. What Jesus was explaining here in Matthew chapter 10-34 was what was going to happen in the church age in the time of his disciples and even in the time leading up to the kingdom age. For example, Jesus himself, his own brothers, his own half brothers, gave him a hard time. And this was right after Jesus was explaining to the disciples why he was not accepted in his own town of Nazareth. Okay? Why he was telling them what to expect. And he was teaching us what to expect when we go 100% into discipleship for Jesus Christ, 100% for Jesus. It happened to me when I started my ministry. My own family didn't understand. And I had one sister that got kind of nasty with me about it, telling me the Bible was made up and fairy tales and stuff like that. I didn't argue with her. I couldn't talk to my mother for a while because my mother was a staunch Catholic and I had gone out of the Catholic Church. My husband wasn't speaking to me when I started the ministry because I gave up everything. So what Jesus is doing here, he's talking about the price of discipleship in Matthew chapter 10, 34-37. He's talking about the price of discipleship. He's talking about those who truly become disciples of him in this age, in this time. There's going to be a price to pay. There'll be division that'll happen for those who are totally and fully in Christ. You're going to be mocked. You're going to be hated. You're going to be, right? And he just got done explaining how the Pharisees. So you need to read the whole chapter of Matthew chapter 9 and 10 in context of why Jesus said, right? Okay. So Matthew chapter 9 is all about the church of Jesus Christ, the coming church of Jesus Christ. Okay? Matthew chapter 9 is all about the whole entire coming of that church age. And how does chapter 9 end? Chapter 9 ends with, chapter 9 is all about the woman with the issue of blood. All right. Chapter 9 is Jesus all about speaking of the church that's coming. The woman with the issue of blood, the church will be bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding for a long time. But then the fate of the church is going to happen. He's talking about these next 2,000 years. Jesus is a spirit of prophecy, and he speaks everything prophetically about what is to come. The disciples all thought it was in his lifetime, but it was really this age, a church age of what was to come. So the woman with the issue of blood is in chapter 9 of Matthew. Okay? bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. It's the church. What's been happening over the last 2,000 years? The church has been bleeding, been not, not being what Jesus wanted it to be. Denominations getting split up, being, the Vatican robbing it. I mean, it's just been really bad. So that church bleeding. But finally, the church rises up in faith and touches the hem of his garment, his tallit. It's the church is a woman, a daughter. Okay. The woman with the issue of blood is a picture of the church. Okay. People were shunning her because she was bleeding. Jesus was explaining what's going to happen in the next 2,000 years, in the age to come. Again, chapter 9 of Matthew, right before chapter 10, it explains that Jesus says, he's talking about his church. This is all prophetic of the church, even these miracles, okay? And it's all about belief. The disciples couldn't do the miracle in the boy that had the epilepsy because they didn't have enough faith. So Jesus was talking about your faith, the price of discipleship, and believing, strengthen your belief. And so Jesus said, if you believe, these miracles can happen, right? This unbelief will come out. So chapter 9 is all about the church, to stop the bleeding, the church becoming believing of signs, wonders, and miracles, the discipleship, the price of discipleship, according to your faith, it will be done for you. Then finally, Jesus goes to the across the water, and he casts out the demons. Then it talks about the church taking territory, right? Jesus went across, took territory. It's all about authority. Okay? This is all about his coming church. Then when you get to Matthew chapter 10, all right, it's all about the price of discipleship and the price of discipleship that's coming. And he's speaking to them because they had just watched him do some of the greatest miracles. He was giving them authority to go against unclean spirits and cast them out. They had just seen him do the greatest miracles, and the Pharisees were really getting on them. And as he was speaking to his disciples, he was speaking to the 12. Okay? He said, don't go the way of the Gentiles, or into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but rather go to the lost sheep of the lost of Israel. In other words, then he was explaining to them, even from their own people, the Jews, it's going to be divided. And it has been for the last 2,000 years. Okay? And it hasn't just been the Gentiles that have come against the disciples of Jesus Christ. And it's just been our own families. It's been God's own people. So what? Matthew chapter 10, the entire chapter 10, all the way to 10, 34, 37, is talking about the price of discipleship, giving your whole entire life to Jesus Christ. I've come to make disciples of you. And when you become a disciple, when you enter into a city, when you enter into a house, this is what you can expect. They may not receive you. It may cause more division when you show up. But you still have to protect yourself. You still have to carry a sword. You still have to walk in my authority. But your own family may disown you. You may have to step away from your family for a while to do this work. It may not be well received. Okay? All right, because it says in Matthew chapter 10, 14, when you come into a house, salute it. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if be not worthy, let your peace return to you. So don't throw your pearls to the swine. And this is what the whole entire Matthew chapter 10 is all about. Matthew chapter 9 is all about the church and what's going to happen in the next 2,000 years. We went through that, right? All this stuff. Building up the bleeding of the church, the unbelief, all that. But Jesus is going to continue to disciple people through these days, through these years. Okay, we're coming out of that church age, and now we're coming into the kingdom age, where people are awakening. Talitha Kumi, the daughter has awakened out of her slumber. We're going to be received now. Even her own families are going to be received. So Jesus was telling them to use discernment, what to expect in the coming years of discipleship, what to expect in the next 2,000 years of what's going to happen with his church. And ye be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved. And we're talking about the end of the age. Okay. And we're coming into the new kingdom age. But when they persecute this city, flee to another city. And he's telling you, it's a word of encouragement. Keep going, even if there's division. And we're going through that time of tribulation. We're at the end of the age now that Jesus was telling us about and preparing for his return. And there's been so much division. Why? Because the devil, right, is trying to bring more of that to come against what? This exact word that Jesus said. Jesus saw this coming. And now more than ever, we have families torn against each other. But there's good news. There's good news, because guess what's coming next? Guess what's coming next? So, as we've taken up our cross and following Jesus, even if our families think we're crazy and not supporting us, even if they're not talking to us, we got to continue to put Jesus Christ first and endure to the end. This is a word for right now. We've got to endure to the end. Okay? Because those that do receive you are going to be blessed, and you're going to be blessed. In other words, if your family doesn't believe you, if they're giving you a hard time, if they're people that aren't speaking to you, Jesus is saying, still do what you're called to do for me. Because those who endure to the end will be blessed and honored. And I'm not talking about in heaven, I'm talking about in the earth. Get ready. Because he that receiveth a prophet in the name of the prophet shall receive a prophet's reward. And he that receiveth a righteous man in the name of a righteous man shall receive a righteous man reward in the earth. Your reward is coming for enduring this time, even if your family wasn't speaking to you. And whosoever shall give drink unto one of those little ones a cup of cold water in the name of my disciple, verily I say to you, he shall in no way lose his reward. So this is chapter 9 of Matthew is all about the church and what's going to happen to the church in the next 2,000 years. We've already been through that. And chapter 10 is all about the price of discipleship, even with your own family. And it's coming to a crescendo right now. It's coming to a head. And now what's coming after this? Our reward. We're coming into our time of reward. We're coming into our time of reward because we have endured this. We're coming into a new time, a new kingdom. And then Matthew 11, right, which is so exciting. And this is just a beautiful time where we're talking about the age of Elijah, the age of John the Baptist, the age of these great and mighty miracles, signs and wonders, and deliverance. And it's about Jesus bringing us into signs, wonders, miracles, and doing the works of the Lord. And that's what Matthew chapter 11 is all about. And it's so wonderful because it says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and lowly of heart. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So we're going to come into what? Rest on all sides. Rest. This is what's coming. And again, that number 11, which is so amazing, it's an awakening number. And then Matthew 12 is the perfect government of God, where Jesus talks about his new government. And that's where the hand, he heals the hand and does a creative miracle of a new hand. Wow, we had that question today. So what's going to happen is, as we're coming into a Matthew 10, 11, 12 time, Matthew 11, we're in the Matthew 10 time right now. We're coming out of it and coming into a Matthew 11 time of awakening and staying yoked to Jesus Christ. Our rewards are coming. And then the Matthew 12 time is where the perfect government of God Through us, the kingdom is manifested in the earth, and even the Jewish people see it, and it's demonstrated in front of the Jewish people. And it's going to see Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, especially the book of Matthew. If you follow the book of Matthew chronologically, you're seeing all the different ages through Jesus Christ that are to come and what to prepare for and what to expect. And it's beautiful. And Matthew chapter 12 is all about the kingdom, demonstrating the kingdom, establishing the kingdom. I mean, it's just wonderful. So you can line up the book of Matthew with the ages that, and Jesus explaining in Matthew 9 about the church suffering and bleeding and struggling the next 2,000 years. Matthew chapter 10 about the price of discipleship. And then Matthew chapter 11 about the great awakening happening and everybody awakening. And not only that, the rest and reward coming to those who did not weary. And Matthew chapter 12 is all about Jesus establishing his government through us, his people. And even the Jews will see it and come. So it's that spirit of prophecy playing out as the disciples walk with Jesus. He was demonstrating what was to come in our day. So I hope that helped you. That was a great question. And that is a basic teaching and a revelation and understanding Matthew chapter 10, 34 through 37, with context of the chapters before and after and what to expect. And it's glorious. And that's the time we're in right now. Because 12 represents the perfect government of God that's coming to pass. Jew and Christian coming together as one with a government of Yeshua, Jesus Christ, Messiah, through us, the people, preparing the government for Jesus' return. It'll be established for Jesus to come right in and take the throne of King David, you see. Because we're going to be out doing signs, wonders, miracles, demonstrating the kingdom, especially to the Jew. Glory to God. So I hope that helped teach that. Great question. Thank you. So be an excitement of the coming times. And if you've ever stepped out for ministry 100% on fire for Jesus Christ, you were going to have to deal with a lot of that Matthew 10, 34, 37 division in your own family, because I know anybody that stepped into ministry, you've had to step away from your family for a while. I know I did. And that's the price of discipleship. And that's what Jesus is talking about. But you know what's beautiful about the Matthew chapter 10, 37 is my family, even after all this division. Jesus is bringing my family back together. Me and my husband side by side in this ministry, my daughter coming by my side in this ministry, my mother. Oh my goodness, what God has done in my mother and my sisters. It's so beautiful. Was there division in the beginning? Yeah. But Jesus, go through that process. There's a price of discipleship, but keep going into chapter 11, keep going into chapter 12, and then watch what God does. Pick up your cross and keep going, right? Keep following through, and then your family will be fully restored, and they'll all be in love with Jesus, and you'll be at peace. It'll be beautiful.